Alright, so if you couldn't already tell by the beginning of the footage and the title of the video, today we're going to be making Tonkotsu ramen. And just so you know I'm serious about this, I brought up the most appropriate shirt for this I own. Alright, so now that my qualifications are out of the way, let's get started. I don't know why I just couldn't get the shot in focus, but anyways, the first thing you're going to need to do is get a large stock pot. Next you're going to need some pig's feet. It sounds gross, but they have the perfect ratio of skin, fat, and bone to make the best broth you ever had in your life. Next, pour the pig's feet into the pot. I found these in an Asian market, which is where I'd recommend you get them, and they already came chopped up. But if you can find them at your local grocery store, then that's a lot easier as well. Next, start filling your pot with water. You're going to want to fill it to about 2 inches above the bones. Then you're going to want to turn up the heat to bring it to a rolling boil. Once you start to see some foamy scum at the top, you're going to do the best you can to strain it out with a strainer. For any scum you can't remove with a strainer, use a spoon. Just make sure you don't remove too much of the water. Once it finally comes to a boil, set a timer for 10 minutes. During this, you're still going to want to make sure you get any of the foam the heck out of here. Really show it who's boss, you know? Once that 10 minutes is up, you're going to pour the whole pot through a strainer. Then rinse the bones out with cold water. Now you're going to clean the bones off. I'm using a fork here, but you can use whatever you have. You're just trying to remove the little bits of scum sticking to the bones. You don't have to do any deep cleaning of them or anything. As you're done cleaning each one, you can go ahead and put it back in the pot. Now we're going to refill the pot. This time we're going to cover the bones with about 3 inches of water. Next, we're going to chop one bunch of green onions into quarters. Whoops, don't forget to cut the bottoms off like I did here. I have a terrible chopping technique, so I'm not going to show it right now, but trust me, I'm practicing and getting better, so you will see that in the future. Go ahead and add the green onions to the pot. Next, you're going to take 2 3-inch knobs of ginger. Now, the easiest way that I've found to peel ginger without any special tools is just to take a spoon and scrape it on the edge of the ginger. Go ahead and cut off any brown bits on the edges as well. Next, you want to start cutting the ginger knobs into thin slices. Add that to the pot as well. Next, take 1 large yellow onion and remove the top and bottom. Yes, I already know I'm holding it weird here. Now cut the onion into quarters. And for this, I just leave the skin on. It goes fine in the broth and it strains out at the end anyways. And add it to your broth. And then add 2 medium shallots. Now, same thing with the onions, tops and bottoms cut off, cut into quarters, skin on. You know the drill, go ahead and put those bad boys in the broth. Finally, crush and peel 4 whole cloves of garlic. And this is the last vegetable we're going to add to our broth to take it to Flavor Town. Boy oh boy, look at all those veggies. Go ahead and mix those veggies around and then bring this up to a rolling boil. Once you get that to a boil, you want to lower the temperature just enough to keep it at a boil, but not too low that it's going to stop boiling. For me, this was medium heat or just above medium heat. I know it sounds a little low, but once you put the lid on, the pot is going to boil much easier. You're going to want to keep the pot covered the whole time. Next, after your pot teleports to another burner, check it about once every hour. During that hour, you're going to want to check the broth levels and stir up the bones. If the bones stick at the bottom the whole time, they're going to burn, and that's not going to be good. As far as the broth levels go, if you notice the broth reduced about 1 inch, you're going to want to refill it. On the final hour before it's done, if you fill it back up to the original level, let it reduce for the last hour to get the perfect amount. So this broth is going to be boiling 12 hours from the time that you put the lid on it. I know that sounds like a lot, but you gotta just plan your day if you're gonna cook this. It's rewarding and worth it, trust me. Plus, as long as you keep an eye on the broth, you can be doing other things during this cooking time. Now, speaking about things that you can do while this is cooking, during the first hour, you're gonna wanna start marinating your pork belly. In a medium bowl, mix 2 tablespoons of mirin, about 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. Trust me, this brown sugar is gonna be what makes this pork belly really good. And finally, you're gonna add about 1/2 cup of reduced sodium soy sauce. If the marinade doesn't cover your pork belly, feel free to add more soy sauce. Give it a stir and make sure to really get that brown sugar mix in there. Now, I'm gonna only be using about 1 pound of pork belly for this, but feel free to scale up if you're using more. Next, get out your pork belly in a gallon bag. Now, as you can see, I'm using strips of pork belly, which isn't gonna make traditional rolled up Japanese chashu, but it's gonna be really good, trust me. Next, you're gonna start putting your pork belly in your gallon bag. Now, as you can see, I got the little strips of pork belly, and I'm gonna put about 2 in. Once you have your pork belly in, you're just gonna wanna fill it with the marinade. It may not look like enough, but we're gonna start sealing the bag and squeezing all the air out. Once you've done that, put it in the fridge and leave it there at least 4 hours. After it's done marinating, place your pork belly into a medium-sized pot. Add about 1.25 cups of soy sauce, 1 cup of mirin, and 1.5 cups of water mixed with 1/4 cup of rice wine vinegar. Now for the veggies. Add 1 green onion chopped into quarters. Give that a quick stir. And then add 4 or 5 cloves of peeled uncrushed garlic and give that another stirry. Now bring this mixture to a boil. Once it's really bubbling up, you're going to want to turn that down to a simmer. And once it comes down to a simmer, you're going to want to leave this on for about 2 hours. After 2 hours, check for tenderness and keep cooking until your desired level. As the liquid reduces, it's going to go below your pork belly, so you might want to flip your pork belly every once in a while, about once every 30 minutes. After it reaches your desired tenderness, take it out and let your pork belly rest at least 10 minutes. As you can see, we're left with a beautiful brown color on the outside and perfectly cooked pork-colored pork belly on the inside. Slice your pork belly up however thick you like it. For me, it's about medium size, and then it's ready for your ramen. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this is the best pork belly I've ever had in my life. So if nothing else, the recipe is at least worth it for this. Now on to the soup base, also known as the tare. For this tare, we're gonna be using kombu, which is a dried kelp. It's not super common, but you can find it at Whole Foods, and if you don't have a Whole Foods near you, you can get it from Amazon. So we're gonna start in a pan that you have the lid for. Place 3 kombu leaves about the size into the pan. Next, add 3/4 cup of water. Bring the stove up to medium-low just to let this kombu steep and not to a boil. If you bring it to a boil, I will come to your house and smack you. Once it gets to that steamy heat, you're gonna turn off the stove, put a lid on it, and let it steep for 10 minutes. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Yes, I did turn another light on. So after the 10 minutes, you're gonna take off the lid and add about 1/2 cup of bonito flakes. An Asian market will be your best bet for finding this one. Make sure the bonito flakes are getting in the water. Then cover it back up and let those steep for another 5 minutes. Next, you're gonna wanna strain out the bonito flakes and the kombu. Pressing it down will get a little bit extra juice out, so I did that. Now add 3/4 cup of soy sauce, 6 tablespoons of mirin, 1/4 cup of mushroom broth, and then off to a side in a bowl, you're gonna add 2 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar, about 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, and a few dashes of onion powder. Give that a good mix, and then add that in with the rest. Now stir that all together. Next, you're gonna add salt and taste. You're gonna keep adding salt until it's just saltier than you would like. This is what's gonna be adding salt to your broth, and you're only gonna be using a few tablespoons per bowl, so do not skimp on that salt. Now pour into a container with a lid, and congratulations, you just achieved your lifelong dream of making tare. Now this next part is something that I think takes the ramen to a whole new level. That's right, I'm talking about soy glazed soft-boiled eggs. So first you gotta know how to make the perfect soft-boiled egg, and for $5 I'll tell you. Nah, I'm just playing. Start with some water that's at a rolling boil. Place your eggs in gently so that they don't crack. Once you get all the eggs in, you're gonna wanna bring the pot down to a gentle boil instead of a rolling boil. For me, this meant turning the stove exactly halfway between medium and medium-high. You're gonna cook this at a gentle boil for about 6.5 to 7 minutes. As soon as they're done cooking, you're gonna take them out and put them in an ice bath. This is to keep them from cooking any further. Leave them in the ice bath for about 5 minutes to cool, and then you're gonna peel them. And just to show how perfectly these eggs are cooked, let me show you this. That do be looking good right there. Alright, now the part you've been waiting for. To a medium bowl, add 1/4 cup of soy sauce. Next, you're gonna add 1/4 cup of mirin, and then add about 1 cup of water. If you're making this for a large amount of eggs, just scale up the recipe in the same ratios. Give that all a good mix, and then you're ready to put your eggs in. Drop them in one by one with a slotted spoon. It's okay if the eggs are completely covered in liquid, but you can always add a little extra soy sauce over top of them. Next, you're gonna cover that in Cover in plastic wrap. Oh, I missed. You're gonna wanna cover it in plastic wrap. There we go, 3rd time's the charm. Now you're gonna place these in the fridge. After 2 hours, you're gonna turn the eggs over in the soy sauce. After that, you're gonna leave them in there for at least another 2 hours or up to 24 hours. The longer the better, you know? Alright, now for the home stretch, the toppings. We're gonna cut up some sheets of nori into little rectangles, about this size. Next, you're gonna get 1 bundle of green onions and cut off the whites. Then chop up the rest into little pieces. And now it's the moment we've all been waiting for. Time to make the bowl. We're gonna start with a few spoonfuls of our tare. Not too much because you don't want it to overpower the flavor of the broth. Next, after straining all our veggies and bones out of our broth, we put a few ladlefuls into our bowl. Now, I would have made homemade noodles, but I don't have any pasta cutters. So after cooking your noodles at package instructions, you're ready to put them in. Next, after cutting one of our eggs in half, we're gonna add it to the bowl. Next, I'm adding some white mushrooms that I glaze in soy sauce, but you can add enoki mushrooms or any type that you want. Next, add your green onions. And then it's time to add the piece de resistance, the pork belly. And then finally, one of your slices of nori. Oops, just gonna flip that over because I think it looks better. And there you have it, guys. After a lot of hard work and a lot of time, you have the perfect bowl of ramen. And it is the best bowl of ramen I've ever had in my entire life. Mwah. Thank you guys for watching, and if you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe.